From Hargeisa, Somaliland, this is CBA. Welcome to the news brief with me, Abdillahi Hassan. Somaliland President has laid the foundation stone of the National Heritage Center that has been built at the site of the historic national platform. The center is planned to store and display Somaliland heritage of historical epochs from the Stone Age to the contemporary heritage. President Muse Bihi remarked on the historic roots of the site, which will house the National Heritage Center. The president told the story of the site, which at some time was the home of the earliest civil organization during the colonial era. Later it served as the headquarters of the Somali National League, the leading party of the struggle against colonial rule. The president also talked in length about the importance of preserving national heritage. He said it is crucial for the national cohesion and raising national aspirations. President Bihi urged private collectors to donate historic artifacts to the National Heritage Center. He believed that the center will have regional departments in all Somaliland provinces. The impressive National Heritage Center is at a very accessible place at the heart of downtown Hargeisa. At least 3 ISIS fighters have been killed in the Golis mountain region in Somalia after the U.S. military bombed the group's base. In a statement, U.S. Africa Command said, in coordination with the federal government of Somalia, the United States military conducted an airstrike targeting ISIS fighters. The attack happened on Friday evening, according to the statement. Friday airstrike targeted their vehicle while the men were traveling in the mountainous area of Golis. A witness who spoke to the media on the condition of anonymity said about 4 missiles fired by suspected U.S. drones hit a mountainous area on Friday near the remote village of Amira, 150 kilometers south of Bosaso. Another Somali official said among those killed was a notorious bomb expert who had been on intelligence radar for nearly a year. U.S. Africa Command vowed it will continue to work with its partners to transfer the responsibility for long-term security in Somalia from AMISOM to the federal government of Somalia and its member states. The United Nations Security Council Somalia Sanctions Committee has called for an urgent update of the country's profile to better reflect reality. This comes as the committee says that the situation in the country is vastly different from when the weapons embargo sanctions were first imposed. The chairman of the Security Council Somalia Sanctions Committee, Mark Dupeswev, said the current political and security context in Somalia has changed since 1992, adding the update will give a clear picture of how to move forward. The committee noted that Somalia is on a positive trajectory with key achievements on the political, economic, humanitarian and security fronts. Somalia, however, remains vulnerable to climatic shocks and escalating conflict, while inconsistent funding continues to challenge the delivery of humanitarian assistance. As it concerns the ban on the import and export of charcoal, Dupeswev said that it was no longer clear that Al-Shabaab was deriving significant revenue from the trade. The gravesite where the body of one of Kenya's most famous Mau Mau fighters, Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi, was buried has been finally located. The Dedan Kimathi Foundation CEO, Evelyn Wanjugu, on Friday evening confirmed that the gravesite had been located at Kamiti Prison. Dedan Kimathi was the senior military and spiritual leader of the Mau Mau uprising. Widely regarded as a revolutionary leader, he led the armed military struggle against the British colonial regime in Kenya in the 1950s. Dedan Kimathi was captured on 21 October 1956 after he was shot in the leg by a policeman called Nadriango. He was charged with unlawful possession of firearm and ammunition, which was against Regulation 8A1 of the Emergency Regulation in 1952. He was sentenced to death for the first count and 7 years imprisonment with hard labor for the second count. He was executed on February 18, 1957, and his body buried in an unmarked grave at Kamiti Maximum Prison in Nairobi. According to the court papers of the lawyer who represented Kimathi, Ralph Milner, now deceased, the United Kingdom government had declined to reveal where they had buried the liberation hero. According to prison warden, who served at prison between 1952 and 1957, the colonialists thought Kimathi could come back to life. The family is now waiting for Chief Justice David Marago to allow for the excavation and exhumation of the Kimathi remains for a decent burial. Weeks after receiving the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is coming under harsh criticism over his silence in the face of protests this week that police said has claimed the lives of at least 67 people. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was in Russia when the protests broke out and is yet to publicly comment on the violence. Thousands of people took to the streets of Addis Ababa and several regional towns on Wednesday. The protests were spurred by a prominent critic of the Prime Minister who had accused the police of plotting an attack on him. The critic Jawar Mohammed is the founder of an independent media network and claimed that there was a plan to arrest or possibly kill him at his house in the capital Addis Ababa. 13 of those who died in the protests were killed by security forces, and the remainder died in sporadic fighting that broke out between rival groups, according to the regional police commissioner for the Oromia region. He said that another 213 people were injured. By Thursday night, Commissioner Kifialo said calm had been restored to the country, with no kind of protest or violent activities. Officials also announced on Friday that they had deployed soldiers to several regional towns, including 6 in the Oromia region. The total damage inflicted by the unrest is still being tallied. That's our news brief for this time. Thank you for joining us. I'm Abdillahi Hassan.